I would like to just acknowledge who will be coming on stage, and we're this group of amazing students who I've had the privilege and honor to work with. Last November, I spent some time in Vancouver at the Virtual and Augmented Reality Association conference, and it was there that I knew Sabarish before. If you haven't met him before, he is a Toronto resident. He's 14, I think almost 15 now. And Sabarish is one of the youngest AR developers in the world and has done keynotes everywhere from AWE to Web Summit. He's developed for HoloLens. He's working for Google this summer. He's really shining brightly, obviously, in this space, and has a lot to contribute about what that next generation is experiencing in schools today, and how to roll out in the future. And it was meeting with Sabarish back in the fall that we decided to create in the VR and AR Association a student committee that could provide value on how to teach the next generation, how to educate them, and ask them how they want to learn. And it's through this committee that I'm mentoring. I started to co-chair it and decided I would bring on some students that I could just pass off and then continue to mentor. And Olivia has joined us, so I'd like to introduce Olivia, who's in the room right now. Sabarish is going to join us in a couple of minutes. But Olivia is 17 years old, and she is in Cleveland right now. She is a visiting researcher at the Cleveland Clinic Center for Brain Health. She's a VRA Student Education Committee Chair who's helping me basically build out that next generation level of involvement to build best practices and global standards using virtual and augmented realities in the classroom. This conversation, I think, is one that it's a rare one when we bring minors into adult conversations, and I think that barrier needs to be broken down today. Olivia, thanks for joining me. I'm sorry, I'm not in virtual reality. I might actually jump in because I have another headset here. But why don't I pass it over to you, because Olivia has really proven herself to take that leadership role in our committee with Sabarish, establishing some of the start practices of building this committee and trying to bridge into the community of students who are seeking to be a part of this, to be a part of creating those best practices and global standards. And why didn't we ask this next generation before? Why didn't we ask them what they wanted to learn and how they wanted to be taught? So Olivia, I'm going to pass it over to you. I know we talked the other day about a few questions, but I'll give you the stage if you want to do a bit of an introduction yourself and why the committee is important to you.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Olivia, as Julie mentioned. I'm 17. I'm an 11th grader at Laurel School in the Cleveland, Ohio area. As for my involvement in XR, as Julie mentioned, I represent the Cleveland chapter as the co-chair of the VRARA Student Education Committee, and I'm currently working on a therapeutic virtual reality application for people with dementia. So I'm using my experiences at the clinic and interning, and now currently as a visiting researcher to conduct research there to help develop my application.
Amazing, and I know that right now, do you want to tell everybody where you are and who's sponsoring you?
Yeah, so right now I'm at Razor Edge, and my sponsor is Ronaldo Zabala, who is the head of the Cleveland chapter. He's actually standing here in the background, if you want to say hi.
Hi, Julie. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, so I'm at Razor Edge in Cleveland.
Okay, and they've actually agreed to sponsor you as a student to become part of the association. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. I'm very, very fortunate.
So when you and I started working together, we started talking about, what would you want to change in the classrooms? And I know that you actually wrote a white paper or an article you posted on your LinkedIn page, which this is one of the things that when we first talked to Olivia, both Sabarish and I said, where's your LinkedIn page? And Olivia didn't have one. And overnight, Olivia, I think you You created a page, you wrote an article, you connected with the top minds in the world on brain health, and now you've got an immense amount of connections. I'm sure you're going to have many more after today. But I'd love to hear from you on the synopsis that you have about what you're experiencing in high schools today in the United States. I must say that, you know, every country is different, but can you give us your experience of how teachers are accepting technology in the classroom today?
Absolutely. So this is what I talked about in my article, as you mentioned. Peers and I have found that teachers, particularly from the earlier generations, are often not well equipped to use new technology in the classroom, and this either stems from insufficient training or really just a lack of personal experience with the tools. We have a 3D printer at my school, Laurel, and of course we have smart boards as you see them at every school. But the teachers struggle to use these tools or to implement them at all in their lessons, in the classroom. Even clicking and starting simple videos can be a struggle. And then it gets worse when we see many teachers' frustration with the technology lead them to disengage entirely, so they don't even try to use it anymore. We see smart boards being used only as whiteboards, or 3D printers just collecting dust. And then incredible free online resources for self-learning like Khan Academy are not even mentioned for extra practice or for extending what you learned in the classroom. So it's just really disappointing to see.
So what do you think that some of the solutions could be easy, reachable for teachers? And I'm not sure how much you've listened to the presentations today. You're welcome to echo any of the comments or presentations that people have been said, but it's just, you know, to hear it from you personally. What do you think that should be done for teachers to help them engage with this technology?
So as a general principle, and based on what I've seen in the classroom in terms of the teachers not being able to take full control over the technology and feel connected to it, I think that we should provide teachers, in terms of XR technology in particular, with an intuitive toolkit. And then they really need that sufficient professional development. We can't just throw a bunch of content at them, let them know about all these things out there. And what will happen is, if we do just throw it at them, they might admire the technology. It's a great novelty, it looks super cool, but understandably, they're going to feel disconnected from it. And then they're not going to know how to seamlessly integrate it into their lessons, so it won't be used effectively, if at all. So my main thing is empowering our educators with the technology that's out there, not showing them what's out there and saying it's really cool, and then they admire it, but they're a little bewildered.
So I guess one of the things that I wanted to ask you also was, what is the talk in the classroom about technology? And I know you're a bit of an anomaly. Not every 17-year-old is doing something, you know, in the brain space at that age. But what is the talk on the playground, literally in the classrooms about, you know, technology and the adoption and you know, how do students feel about the technology basically gathering dust in their classrooms when they walk out of the classroom and they may see a VR headset or a PlayStation or an augmented reality app, or even, you know, Snapchat engagement?
Honestly, it's almost become a laughingstock. So when we watch our teachers struggle to start a video, it's almost expected, and it's a bit humorous, which is really sad. In terms of the 3D printer, I recently this year started using them a bit more to create some individual projects. And when I would tell my friends about them, they had no idea that they even existed at our school, and we've had them for a few years now. So they're either not even familiar with some of the newer technology, or they just expect the teachers to not be able to use the technology effectively, and they're used to it. So they just kind of let it happen, I guess, which is really unfortunate.
So when you talk about communications from the teachers to the students, or vice versa. You know, we've had this conversation about Snapchat before. You know, I have a 14-year-old who's on Snapchat all the time. Do you think that the teachers need to change the way they communicate to the students? Is there, you know, I know there's a barrier, but hearing from you, what do you think that the teachers should do to communicate with the students in a better way?
Oh, absolutely. I think that we can't see social media platforms as a novelty for the youth or something that the youth engage in, but not the older generations. Like you said, in order to be able to effectively communicate across different generational barriers or any other kind of barriers, everyone has to be familiar with what is the future. If the ultimate goal of a school is to prepare the students to work and operate effectively in the real world, and better yet, be disruptors and innovators, how can the teachers actually prepare them if they're not even familiar with the technology like Snapchat that we use every day?
I'd like to welcome Sabarish. Hi, Sabarish, how are you? Hi, Sabarish.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You good?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe, you know, I did quickly introduce you when you weren't in the room because your picture's right behind you. But I just wanted to give you a chance. I want to do a quick introduction. Do you want to do a quick introduction of yourself and let everybody know about what you're doing and what your position is on your technologies in the schools and that sort of thing? And
Yeah,
Olivia,
sure.
Sabarish is talking.
Okay.
Great. So I'm Sabarish, as they had mentioned before, and I've been working with VR and AR tech for the past 2 years. And Julie and Alan were actually some of the first people who helped me get started with this technology and to start learning about it. And I've been working with it for the past 2 years, and companies like Microsoft, Google, and Apple have been sponsoring me to help me start working on this. Last summer, I worked at Microsoft on their Azure machine learning team and as well with their mixed reality team to work on with their mixed reality team. And after that, right now, I'm running my own startup actually called Waypoint AR. So it's for indoor navigation with augmented reality. And it's very unique from other indoor navigation startups. So we're also working with AR right now in the fact that there is virtually no setup required to actually get the product to start working. All you need is a floor plan to get it to start running, and you don't actually need any hardware to get started. So that's something that I'm working on. And right now, I started on the student committee first when Julie had the idea of creating this committee and seeing how students can also start working with VR as well, and how we can expose students to the opportunity of using VR for education as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Sabarish. One of the questions I'm going to ask on behalf of everybody, because I know everybody's asking, is how did you get started? Like, what resources were available to you that made you engage in creating your own company, start developing? And is this a norm in the schools today of students that are interested in doing this, or are you just one of the few?
So I actually started off learning about all these technologies through this program called the Knowledge Society, which is here in Toronto, where they expose us to these different technologies like VR, AI, self-driving cars, and they help us find your passions in these technologies and learn more about them. And that's how I first discovered VR and AR. And this is definitely not something that's a norm in schools right now. And not many students and kids actually think about going out there and trying to work on these hard technologies when they are so young. And I think the program that I was in really helped me to know that with resources online right now, any of us can actually pull these type of things off and learn and build these products as well. And that's really just how I got started.
Amazing. Thank you. Olivia, I wanted to bring you in. As well as discuss the resource that we plan for the fall, which I think will tie really nicely into training the trainers and supporting the educators, not just the teachers, but the parents around us. So I'll let you take over here.
Sure. So I would sum it up as democratization of XR. And as you talked about, establishing global standards, creating communication channels among the different generations, and really supporting students not only in being educated in XR in the classroom, but also being able to create their own content. So educating them in developing VR, AR, XR. So that's really the mission. And in terms of our future project, I believe you're referring to, we're hoping to launch a parent newsletter. So a way for the next generation to be able to communicate with the earlier generations and their parents about what's going on in the field, because ultimately they're going to be the ones, us being minors, that will have to support us to some extent. So we need them to understand exactly what we're getting into, what we're working on. So we're really, really excited about that.
And one of the other initiatives that we're going to work on is bringing in students from around the world to participate in this committee to build those standards and have the input from different countries, with obviously different governments, different education systems. I think you've got some feedback there, Olivia. You might need to mute. And while you guys are muted, Sabarish and Olivia, can you switch places? Because we got a really nice photo of the two of you, but you guys are backwards in avatars. And Sabarish needs to, and Olivia, you gotta transport yourself over to underneath your picture, and then we can take a nice picture of the two of you. There we go. Perfect. Okay, somebody grab that photo for me. Anyways, one of the things, having students represented globally, I think this is our future. These are the people that are going to be the leaders of our world. And these are two of quite a few, very many bright students in this world who are ready to take hold of this technology and apply it to their lives, to their solutions that they see they can build and apply this technology. So I'm a parent, but I feel like I'm their parents at this point as I'm mentoring these two, and it's really encouraging to be a part of this small committee right now, but we're pacing ourselves because we do believe that it's going to be a committee that many students will want to be a part of. So starting off with these two has been a true pleasure on behalf of Ronaldo and Cleveland, mentoring Olivia and myself here in Toronto with Sabarish. We hope this committee will expand. I'm going to pass it over to you, Olivia, do your closing remarks, and then Sabarish can do his closing remarks, and then we'll take questions from the audience.
Sure. So I guess my closing remarks would be, and this is kind of to echo what you were talking about in your talk, Julie, is self-learning is really the key here. I'm very, very fortunate to be at my school at Laurel, but ultimately I never really would have gotten into this space, VR, AR, XR, without using the tools available on the internet. I know Alan mentioned a few like Udemy. I'm currently taking a C# and Unity course right now. There are tons of YouTube channels and videos available for free online everywhere. So for all the students and teachers and anyone really who wants to learn and stay on the edge, just keep pushing yourself to keep learning and yeah.
Thanks, Olivia. Thanks for joining us today. Sabarish, did you want to close off, and then we'll take questions?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I'd like to echo what she said as well on really, there's so many resources online right now to actually learn with. I've went through so many Udacity courses. I did a nano degree on that, and Udemy courses, Coursera courses. There's so many courses out there right now that students have access to and that they can get to very easily just on whatever devices that they have right now. And the other part is actually encouraging these type of activities in schools as well. A lot of students don't actually about starting to even do these activities because it doesn't strike them as something they should be doing other than school or something that they can do. So I think it's really getting a lot of encouragement from teachers as well to start building their portfolio or also just learning for fun, whatever it is, to just start getting exposed to these technologies now, start learning about them and start building with it. And eventually I think it can become a norm for all students to be working on really cool things like this and preparing themselves for careers in the future as well.
That's
The
great.
future is unpredictable, so we should prepare ourselves by continuing to learn, and hopefully our teachers can support us in these endeavors. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you both so much. Does anybody from the audience have any questions for Olivia or Sabarish? Can we get some emoji love for these two? Because I certainly think they did a great job. Thank you very much from Toronto here and Lethbridge College in Alberta, and the group in virtual space who have stuck around for this presentation. Thank you both so much.
Yeah, thanks
Okay,
a lot for having us here.
So I think I'm not sure if the team has a slide just to put up the emerging reality slide. I think just in closing, maybe if Mike McCready wants to come out and stand at the front with me as well. The conference today, Emerging Realities, is stemmed from building a new education curriculum, a new way of teaching and learning, building that new virtual classroom. Today we talked about the concepts of 3D learning, cognitive assessment, gamification, new virtual classrooms, teaching the fundamentals, as well as training the trainers and the teachers, preparing the students for the future of work, and keeping the conversation open with the next generation. Those are things that we can all start working on today. There are things that teachers can start to embed into their lessons, with or without any control from administration. So I hope everybody's found this conversation insightful and helpful. If anybody has any questions for any of the panelists, we can certainly, if they're not in the room, we can go back and ask them and get the answers to you. I'm happy to answer to Mike McCready, any of the teams from Centennial College, Lethbridge College. There's a lot of interesting people that are in this space who provide a lot of value in education on a daily basis. Following in any of these podcasts that are educating you about how to use this technology, and the resources that are out there, just like Sabarish and Olivia said, there's so much out there, and you have to be very resourceful. While we get these teachers and educators prepped with the supporting resources, we all have to take that initiative to self-learn and initiate that on our own. So I guess, Mike, are you there? If you're not, I can close out the conference unless there's anything anybody else wants to join in or participate in any further conversation. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for joining us in Emerging Realities 2019. I hope to join in next year and make this an even bigger collaboration. I think it should go Canadian-wide. I think it already has gone global, so hopefully we can set up some more locations to watch this conference next year. It'll be very, very interesting to see where we are 1 year from today. And, we don't have very many people here in Toronto, but next year, as Alan said, we expect to have hundreds here. We expect AltSpace or whichever supporting platform to have hundreds in AltSpace, everybody coming together to make those changes in education that we really, really need to be able to support the next generation, the future future of work, and as we all move towards this exponential growth. So thank you very much, everybody, for hosting with me, and the Lethbridge team over there in Alberta, thank you very much on behalf of Toronto and Alberta. Signing off, I guess, from AltSpace VR Emerging Realities. Thanks, guys.